we're very happy. It's truly an honor today that we could invite Khenpo Sodargye. Our event is called Shanghai MBA Business Wisdom Forum. The purpose of this event, originally our starting point, was to hope we could offer Shanghai's MBA community some small inspiration, whether in business wisdom or life wisdom. To provide a little inspiration, we hope through exchanges with different wise people, pioneers, even successful individuals, to spread more positive energy in business wisdom. Today we're very fortunate, it's a lucky opportunity. We've invited a wise teacher like Khenpo Sodargye. We also hope that in the upcoming lecture from the Khenpo's wise words, everyone can gain positive insights for personal growth, especially for us MBA community. I was just chatting with Khenpo on the way here. Our MBA people, some are already entrepreneurs, some are in their respective companies in various positions, continuously contributing their light and warmth. But at our age, at our stage, whether from work or from family, from career or life, we all have various troubles and confusions to some degree. We hope today, through a wise teacher like the Khenpo, we can gain some directional guidance in our careers, lives, families, and growth. To provide some direction, I'll keep my opening remarks simple. Now I'll pass the microphone to Khenpo to begin today's talk.
Okay, today we have the Shanghai MBA Business Wisdom Forum. As he just mentioned, the purpose of today's lecture, in such a short time to say I'll give everyone some inspiration might be difficult, because any wisdom, any knowledge isn't learned in a very brief period, especially profound wisdom. It requires long-term effort, discipline, research, deep exploration. Only then can you truly master it. I think everyone here today, in my eyes, you're all very successful people. Honestly, maybe each of you feels that some aspects aren't satisfactory, lacking confidence in yourself, lacking confidence in society, including toward your family, friends, relatives, even people around your work. You've lost some confidence, even feel some disappointment, but actually, this is just a choice of mindset. We should observe our own hearts from all angles and also analyze the world around us. At that point, you should feel, actually, being alive in this world right now is very fortunate. Looking at your appearance, your age, your wisdom, character, all aspects, though I don't know you well, I think compared to other groups of people, you truly excel in many ways. You may or may not have a sense of satisfaction, but overall, you should have contentment. Ancient people had a saying, wealth lies in contentment, honor lies in others' respect. What does it mean to be wealthy and honored? You need to have satisfaction with your life, work, family, to have a sense of contentment, and also receive admiration and respect from people at different levels. I think everyone here has already achieved this. So at such times, of course, there's pressure, troubles, difficulties in work and life, even various anxieties and fears in your heart. Buddhism speaks of ordinary beings. Worldly people speak of worldly folk. As worldly folk, many people have some fears and worries. Fear of losing loved ones, fear of life's end, fear that as the years pass, you'll lose your vitality, and so on. Many worries and fears and many aspirations, beautiful wishes and dreams that never come true. Actually, many people spend their short lives in a state of anxiety, hesitation, and struggle. This isn't quite reasonable. At a certain point, we should develop confidence and self-reliance in all aspects. We should rejoice in ourselves. This is very important. You probably know that sometimes in different news, different media, every day so many people die, so many meet disasters. At such times, we should feel, I'm alive in this world now. That's quite fortunate. I haven't encountered terminal cancer. I'm not on my last breath today. At least I can eat, dress, speak. If I truly faced life's final moment, probably nothing would seem very important anymore. As long as I survive in this world, even as a beggar, that's my fortune. We'd feel this way. Only then do we realize, in our lives, we actually had many complaints, some dissatisfaction with ourselves and others. These emotions need adjustment. Many of you here should have some research or experience in business management and various commercial operations. You have certain research or experience in this. At this point, the key is mental balance is very important. As everyone knows, for nearly 30 years now, since reform and opening up, our material civilization has had breakthrough development. What some Western countries gradually achieved over 200 or 300 years, we've developed in a short time. Many people at my age, compared with some environments and conditions in my earlier life, in my memory materially speaking, there's been a certain improvement. But I have noticed our spirit truly hasn't risen along with material improvement. Instead, many spiritual values, including human character and ethics, have declined in these areas, and quite seriously. Once a society, a family, a person has very high aspirations, but their overall quality hasn't kept up with material development, that society is actually imbalanced. It carries a kind of sickness. It is difficult to function normally in such a world. At such times, we continuously focus on external economic transactions, management models, or development, of course, for each person. This is a duty in life. We must do it. But at the same time, our inner wisdom, compassion, our ethics and tolerance, these also need continuous learning and improvement. Without this, our desires grow bigger and bigger, our anger heavier, our minds more restless and troubled. In such a state, even with vast wealth, possessing everything, we won't be happy. Many people in big cities now, to some degree, compared to people in very underdeveloped countries and regions, their lives should be like paradise. But in their hearts, they suffer constantly, even to the extreme, basically losing even the capacity to survive. Many even choose suicide. What's the reason? Everyone knows. Our inner education, inner cultivation needs to be elevated. We need these conditions. So I'm often particularly concerned not just with a person's so-called fortune, this so-called fortune. Most people think having lots of money means being very fortunate. But actually, wealth has external wealth and internal wealth. What is external wealth? Whether they have cars, whether they have money, of course, people's so-called fortune now can be measured this way. But inner wealth? Look at a person's true inner quality, inner cultivation, inner wisdom and confidence in all aspects. This is very important. You can think about this. I also specifically posted on Weibo today because yesterday I noticed something. People always think fortune is just about money. Those with money are considered very fortunate. Those without money, even if their inner wisdom is complete in all aspects, everyone, even they themselves, lack confidence. Actually, what people truly need isn't necessarily external wealth. External wealth doesn't necessarily bring inner happiness. Of course, we acknowledge external wealth brings us some satisfaction and convenience, but if all our hope rests on wealth alone, there are difficulties. Why do I say this? If our hearts lack self-regulation and control, actually everyone is relatively equal. For example, rich people, poor people, both strive for their goals. Some struggle day and night for a few hundred yuan. When they don't achieve it, they suffer just as much. Some strive daily or monthly for a few thousand yuan, some for tens of thousands, some for tens of millions. Especially now, some very capable people aren't striving for tens of millions, they're striving for billions. When they don't reach their goals, everyone suffers, equally anxious. The anxiety over a few hundred yuan versus billions, in terms of suffering from anxiety, it's equal, no difference. They're both very pained by it. Sometimes in life, we need to understand what kind of wealth is true wealth. This wealth is very subtle. Among all external and internal wealth, we need a kind of fortune. In Buddhism, this is described in great detail. There's a sutra called the Sutra on the King and Five People. It discusses how some think wisdom is most important, some think diligence is most important, some think skills are most important, some think good looks are most important, and some think fortune is most important. The Buddha taught in this sutra, there was once a king with 5 princes. These 5 princes each had different strengths. One had the best skills, one had the best wisdom, one had the best fortune, one was most handsome, one was most diligent. Later, they often debated about their respective strengths. Each believed theirs are the best. This was a historical fact from long ago. Later, Shakyamuni Buddha became the one with greatest fortune. Shariputra became foremost in wisdom. Aniruddha foremost in skills. So we know, Sometimes people need fortune. For those who haven't studied Buddhism, might not be very clear about the fortune, but fortune isn't obtained through this life's diligence alone. Some people work very hard, but no matter how hard they try, their money or life doesn't go smoothly. Behind what we can't see, there are other conditions. Everyone here should understand this point. Many people now complain about society, but never examine themselves, whether they themselves have any unreasonable aspects. They always say, that's wrong, this is wrong. Even with their own work or family, they blame everyone else for everything bad. They think they're perfect. Actually, it's not like that. Superficially, it seems others are wrong. But actually, I myself also have faults. I once read about an old monk. His disciples were always very careful about their practice. But one day, a disciple said to the old monk, "The people at our monastery today did very poorly. The morning porridge started being prepared at 9 o'clock, but we drank it at 11. Many people got sick from it. These people are terrible." The old monk said, "Don't talk, be quiet. Why? Because you only have such merit. You only have the merit to drink cold porridge. It's not their fault, it's yours." Superficially, it seems the old monk was wrong. Obviously, they let the porridge get cold, but from another perspective, it's actually true. Some people's eyes aren't pure, so they see only bad people. Hearts aren't pure, so their thoughts are all about bad people. First, you put on colored glasses to judge, this is a bad person. Then on that basis, you analyze. Of course, you've already labeled them first, so everything you conclude is negative. But if first you approach each person, whoever the other is, believing they have a good side, you'll be able to discover it. Don't think of yourself as what you judge yourself to be either. Your greed, your anger, what Buddhism calls afflictions, you don't lack these, nor are you free from all worldly faults. Of course, such a person would be wonderful, but among people today, such people don't exist. I've heard many families arguing with each other. When they argue, it probably gets worse and worse. In the end, this kind of war, whether hot war or cold war, family warfare is actually the fundamental cause of world disharmony. Even if the outside world is very peaceful, if the family isn't peaceful, they still feel this world is unsafe. They have this feeling. Every time families argue, actually, there's no tolerance. They think, I have my reasons. I must stand my ground. I must confront them directly, most sharply refute them. And it gets worse and worse. In the end, you actually cause suffering in your family member's heart. But this suffering also brings suffering to your own heart. Everyone knows, in Buddhism, this is called the law of karma. From a physics perspective, Newton's third law, action and reaction. Everyone should know this. For example, if I punch a wall with my fist, I hit it first. But after hitting it, though the wall has no intention to punch you back, this is a natural law. Naturally, my hand feels as if it got punched back. My hand also hurts. Similarly, if we treat others with a smile or kindness, the result it brings us is happiness, is bliss and peace. Naturally, the reaction is like this. If we use insults, resentment, or behaviors that hurt others' hearts, what it brings us is actually unhappiness too. This mindset can be called the law of karma. In Buddhism, it's called action principle, principle of dependence, and the principle of proof and natural law principle. Maybe some of you haven't studied this, but if you combine these two ideas, action and reaction, it's very reasonable. For example, action principle means analyzing from causes. Whatever we do has a reason. With this cause comes its result. This result is the relational principle. This result and cause have a certain relationship. For example, when two people argue, we often think it's the other's fault. Actually, they're partly wrong, but I'm also partly wrong. So the suffering after arguing, both sides share it. This can be discovered through and the principle of proof. Some obvious things can be proven through direct perception. If there are hidden parts, they can be proven through inference. What's the reason? Why do good deeds bring good results, bad deeds bring bad? This is natural law. Just like if we plant poison, it produces a poisonous result. If we plant good medicine, it produces a wonderful result. Superficially, many people think, I didn't do anything. But actually, maybe in this life you did this, and the result appears now. Or maybe you did it in a past life, and the result appears in this life. This is quite profound. But if we don't analyze these deep principles, always living superficially by our imagination, actually, there are many difficulties in our lives. The answers it brings us are mostly doubts or blind guesses. So I especially hope young people should study the law of karma at different levels. If we study the law of karma, many problems in life can be easily resolved. For example, two people start businesses. One succeeds immediately, becomes famous overnight, very, very successful. Another person not only doesn't succeed, but loses money badly. At the very beginning, both had 1 million yuan capital. Same. So then, why is one so successful and one so unlucky? Why? Superficially, some things aren't clear. At such times, we must consider the relationship of causes and conditions. Many people now only judge by what they see, what they hear, or only by what they can think of. Actually, such judgment is limited. How much can our eyes see? Probably just a few dozen meters range. Beyond a few hundred or thousand meters, what our eyes can see has limits. It doesn't work. What about the sounds our ears hear? We only hear limited, very nearby sounds. What can our minds think? Only a limited range. Just now in Shanghai, in this city, I thought, actually, humans are very tiny little insects among so many tall buildings. Humans are even less than 1/10,000th of subtle particle, very tiny. We can't think what we decide is absolutely true. Actually, there's so much truth we haven't found, not just the whole universe, even just ourselves. There's so much. For example, about past and future lives, many know nothing. They don't understand, but insist they don't exist. How do you prove non-existence? There's no reason. And principles like good brings good, evil brings evil. Actually, they've never studied this, but insist it's unreasonable. Some people often tell me, your Buddhism believes in karma. Actually, it's not Buddhism's unique view. If Buddhism's views conflicted with science and natural law, Buddhism would be a cult, not a true teaching. But what Buddhism determines has theoretical foundation, and when you actually examine it carefully, many aspects are deeply felt. Everyone should know this. As I said, two people doing things, same abilities, same wisdom, graduated from the same higher education institutions, but why does one succeed and one not? Siblings from same parents, one looks good, one doesn't. One's wealthy, one's not. Why? There are certain karmic relationships. For example, 3 plots of land. One's seeds grow very well. One grows poorly, one grows terribly. The farmer waters them equally. Same sunlight, water, air, fertilizer, all these conditions. But why does one field stay barren, unable to grow? You must examine, is there a problem with the seeds? If there are no seeds, though superficially the visible conditions are met, actually the result can never ripen. So everyone's causes and conditions. Beyond what we see now, there are unseen, hidden conditions. These conditions, everyone really needs to know about them. In this life, actually, this is the law of causation. Actually, in science now, there's something called the law of attraction. The law of attraction is simple. What's it like? For example, if I'm very stingy, not generous, very narrow-minded, this is called a poverty mindset. What happens? It attracts much suffering. Because I'm stingy, I'm unwilling toward everyone. Gradually, this narrow mindset leads to depression, autism. Even with some money, eventually the returns are very small. But if I have tolerance or special compassion, this is called a wealth mindset. With a wealth mindset, I often give generously to others, I often help others, then wealth and opportunities come to me abundantly. So some people grasp these key points even in this life. Then in their work and life, they try to do good deeds. After this, indeed, these karmic results and good fruits can be clearly seen in their lives. Of course, these laws, whether action-reaction or law of attraction, nowadays causal theory and science are actually just immediate-level scientific laws. Our spiritual karmic laws go even deeper. Why deeper? Our mind's profound karmic relationships. Even for many of you, it's hard to fully comprehend, including the knowledge you've studied. Actually, much is research on external material, but internal spiritual cultivation, basically in all higher universities now, except some religious academies, there's indeed very little. What do people need? We need both material wealth and spiritual wealth. If our spiritual wealth has problems, no matter how abundant material wealth is, we're not only unhappy, but may even head towards self-destruction. This is possible. If our spiritual wealth is very abundant, even if externally, including in Western financial storms, many entrepreneurs lost even basic capital or shares, but in the end, some were very resilient, started businesses again, and many succeeded. So everyone here, from my own practice and life experience, I've discovered each of us, when necessary, spiritual cultivation, spiritual training. For businesses and intellectuals right now, it's very important. If you have a good mindset, including some Buddhist practices, then in life what people think is terrifying, but you still have a sense of belonging and refuge. Problems should be solved this way. At such times, you're completely different from others. For example, in our families, various conditions may arise for some people. But at such times, if you have a method for adjusting and training your mindset, then you'll realize everything is impermanent. Since we're in an impermanent environment, everyone I encounter, their mindsets and lives must also become impermanent. Since the other person changes impermanently, why can't I accept it? External nature and our inner selves, birth, aging, sickness, death, these appear for everyone. Actually, sometimes when we see sudden disasters, people are really panicked. But actually, this is just a collective event happening to certain people. Actually, each of us, within 100 years, excuse me for saying something inauspicious, within 100 years, will all in different ways disappear from this earth, leave this world. When leaving this world, does each person have a final plan, a final preparation? But Buddhism has training in advance, has practice. This practice, those who practice well can use it. If practice isn't good, though they can't use it well, at least they've trained. Like soldiers who've had training beforehand, when reaching the real battlefield, at least they can face situations and respond skillfully. So we think, many people now constantly hope everything is beautiful, peaceful, happy. Every day they think this way and say this. But actually, our lives are winding roads. It's impossible from childhood to old age to go smoothly without any twists and turns. This is impossible, but with such roads, first in our lives, we should have two kinds of plans. I see many successful people only planning for the good side with beautiful blueprints, constantly planning positively. The bad side, very little, they don't even think about it. For example, entrepreneurs always have good plans. I'll earn much money, then with that, I'll do such and such. On the positive side, they plan for all the operations, budgets, evaluations. Then I'll earn much money. And with that, I can reinvest. Actually, planning for the good side is fine, but they should equally plan for the bad side. What if I don't succeed? How will I respond then? It's like driving. When the road is good, you train how to drive on good roads. But when the road is bad, you also train how to drive. So the car of life, no matter what, it's in your hands. Whether you want to drive or not, you're already in the car. If you don't want to drive, you still must drive. When driving, the key is your steering wheel. If your skills are poor and you can only drive on good roads, can you always choose good roads? Very difficult. Life's road now isn't a highway. Even on highways, sometimes your skills aren't very reliable. So I think each of us is actually a driver. Life's road sometimes suddenly needs a turn. This turn may come when you don't expect it. If you're prepared, there's a turn there. What kind of intersection? You know the situation. But often, what we pursue may not match what we actually end up with. This year, I think I'll do something, but by next year, maybe it's something else. Many people, when studying, your ideals may not be what you're doing today. Some thought, I'll become a teacher, but didn't become teachers, became workers in other industries. So on life's road, mental adjustment, mental training is crucial. I think society now really needs moral elevation. Some think, as long as it's not illegal, it's fine. Actually, this not illegal baseline, if people only have a not illegal baseline with no opportunity for elevation beyond that, this society is truly a very low-level society. Of course, no matter what, we can't violate laws. But on this foundation, each person should have their own wisdom and great compassion to cultivate. I now categorize life's education into wisdom and compassion because people need wisdom, whether worldly wisdom, transcendent wisdom, professional wisdom, or overall knowledge wisdom. Without wisdom, whatever you do, you will be confused or muddled. You might lead yourself into life's garbage pit. This is unnecessary. This wisdom needs long-term effort, diligent settling, and accumulation. Then life's wisdom. Though there are levels and differences, some people naturally have very sharp wisdom. Some come to this world with a bit slow, poor memory, careless in all aspects, no confidence in themselves. Especially as age increases, memory declines, things multiply. Plus, all the technology now, I sometimes feel modern people, superficially, our communications, transportation, are highly developed. But on the other hand, many people all day long scroll on their phones, staring at the screens, such tiny text, from morning until bedtime. Before falling asleep, still look once more, then sleep. At midnight, wake up, turn it on, look again. Morning, wake up. First thing, turn on the phone, look. Actually, much information there. For our lives, probably 80% is useless. All kinds of chaotic information floods before our eyes. Similarly, sounds around us, various pop songs heard in phones, much actually isn't very useful for our lives. But people can't help listening to these sounds. If not, they feel they're not human anymore. This feeling exists. We get so tired listening, so tired looking, and thinking all kinds of things. Management, all levels of affairs. So sometimes I especially envy ancient people's lives. If humanity returned to ancient times, they'd have an hour daily for tea, chat, slight rest. Now, when two familiar people meet, they only look at their phones, never talk, then part after a while. If so, no need to meet for tea, coffee, or meals. Mostly, human relationships have become very cold in such a society. At such times, our wisdom may constantly decline. Of course, useful online knowledge is now very convenient. Things ancient people couldn't do in many years, we just send an email, operate online, and suddenly many things get done. This is the benefit. But there are also many drawbacks. So, at such times, I think it's about wise discernment. What's truly useful for you? What do you want? Many people now want so much, but what you truly use, do you really need so much? Each person should think. For example, buying a house. Many may be to satisfy vanity. Actually, a family for basic survival doesn't necessarily need so much. Buying a car, the car gets increasingly high-end. There are so much pressure in many aspects you must bear. Much pressure is actually self-imposed, is not put on you by society nor other factors, because your own desires are huge. You think other friends and people all have this. Why don't I? If I don't, I can't keep up with them. Actually, we're not racing. Each has their own path. Do what you can. You don't necessarily have to keep up with them. This is also very important. This is the wisdom I emphasize. Then we also emphasize the compassion. What people now need most crucially is love. With this love, it naturally brings warmth to those around you. If we don't love ourselves, we can't love family. If you don't love your family, you can't love all society. Of course, some so-called love may be selfish, possessive, a self-controlling mindset. This mindset is sometimes very dangerous. When this attachment to love grows bigger, you may control the object you love more and more. Then the other has no freedom. When they have no freedom, their suffering must eventually erupt. In the end, neither is happy. Originally you wanted to love so much, but eventually you not only don't get love, instead it brings greater hatred. So hatred and love maybe are fundamentally compassion and tolerance hard, a truth we haven't fully comprehended to a certain degree. But if we truly, selflessly, unconditionally want to help others, love others, then we also give them living space, give them a certain freedom, truly bring them closer to truth. Then naturally it brings them true happiness, and you yourself will also gain this happiness. So the karmic forces of good and evil indeed have certain power. This power, I think in life it's very worth exercising. I hope many successful people here should regularly practice virtuous actions, cultivate positive energy. Living in this world, not only can we survive, we should also share our light, our love with people around us. If each person can achieve this in their lives, society's entire atmosphere will increasingly carry warmth. This isn't anyone forcing it upon you. Each of us should have this responsibility. So we need to study the relationship between causes and effects. When we understand causality, much that happens now, whether happy or unhappy, or life's stormy experiences behind them, we have room for reflection. Superficially, things happen this way, but what our physical eyes can see, we can examine the causes. What our physical eyes can't see, behind it, we still need to examine. For example, my illness. Hospitals can detect some, but some parts truly can't be detected. There are subtle causes, but when these causes are examined with special wisdom, we know, actually, this world is equal for each of us personally. However, each person's karma created, causes planted, the results brought are still different. So in adopting and abandoning in karmic cause and effect, in practicing virtue and cutting off evil, everyone should be very careful. At such times, this present life will be happy, and we can say future lives will be happy too. The Buddha also taught before, those who joyfully cultivate merit are happy in this and future lives. The Buddha said in the Vinaya Sutra, for those willing to cultivate meritorious virtue, this present life will be happy. Future lives will also be happy. This principle, those who haven't studied truth may not understand, but those truly approaching truth will gradually comprehend its meaning. Okay? Thank you, everyone.